Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Bastia, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Bastia or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to another edition of Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. Today is Saturday, March 5th, 2022, and it is just 5 minutes past the hour, and I'm your host for today's edition, Devon Cornelius. We have joining us today members of the People's Action Movement. We have the chairman, the Honorable Jonel Powell, deputy leaders, the Honorable Lindsey Grant and the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, as well as the candidate for East Bastia, Mrs. Natasha Gray Brooks. And I believe joining us later on in the program will be the political leader, the Honorable Sean Richards, who is here with us now. Thank you so much for joining us here on Inside the News today. Now, we're here to talk about Convention 2022, which is slated for Sunday, March 13 at St. Mary's Park in Cayon. And the theme for this year's convention is keeping the promise. Minister Powell, can you tell us more about what the public or the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can expect on Sunday for the convention, the 13th?
To the People's Action Movement, and it is a pleasure to be here on WINNFM and on this news to speak with the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The general can expect a convention like no other. Last year, last year we had our biggest convention ever. It was full of energy, full of vibe. This year will be not very different, but probably just bigger. It's about keeping a promise. It's about the People's Action Movement reaffirming its commitment to keeping the promise to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, keeping the promise to the rank and file of our party, keeping the promise to our partners in Team Unity, and really setting us up for what I think is a platform whereby the People's Action Movement is going to, through keeping the promise, really expand its horizons. As we all know, we have a new candidate in Mrs. Natasha Shani Gray Brooks, and we expect her to join the team, to join the fold, not just politically, but parliamentary-wise, and in cabinet and government. And so this will be her first convention, and it's our opportunity to officially at this platform introduce her. And we have our partner in unity in terms of the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark Brantley, who's going to be our guest speaker The feature speaker is going to be, as usual, the political leader, and I expect lots of fire and lots of energy and messaging from him. And so we want to invite everybody to come out to St. Mary's Park in Keon on Sunday the 13th for our 57th annual convention.
Thank you so much, Minister Powell. As mentioned, we have here in the studio as well the political leader, the Honorable Sean Richards. Now, the chairman spoke to the aim for the convention, which is set for Sunday, March 13, which is being held under the theme Keeping the Peace. And as you just stated, to reaffirm your commitment to team unity. Minister Richards, in your capacity as the political leader, what is your stance on that, and what more can you tell us about Sunday's convention?
What I can say to you about Sunday's convention, and let me pause to say good morning to all of the listeners of Win FM. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here this morning along with the other members of the team of the People's Action Movement. Sunday's convention has similarities to all of the other conventions of the People's Action Movement in that it is held annually. It is a convention in which we intend to rally the troops. It is a convention in which we intend to outline to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis what the People's Action Movement has been able to achieve thus far in government as representatives of the people, as a vibrant political party which continues to put people first. However, as you have noted, the theme for the convention this year is Keeping the Promise. As such, we intended to outline to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis how the People's Action Movement has kept the promise, and the fact that we continue to keep the promise and give them the commitment that we will continue to keep that promise. Therefore, in a sense, what you would have gathered just now is that in the past, we have kept the promise. Today, we are keeping the promise, and in the future, the People's Action Movement will be keeping that promise. Of course, there are those who may ask, well, what is the promise that the People's Action Movement has made to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis? There are many promises that we have made. As I said, our party's motto is putting people first. And so all that we do would be based on that particular motto, putting people first. The People's Action Movement has laid a solid foundation in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis over the years. It's starting back in 1980 when the People's Action Movement came into government. Back then, the People's Action Movement would have promised a number of things to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the People's Action Movement delivered on those promises. In 2015, as part of a Team Unity Coalition government, the People's Action Movement made a number of promises to the people, and we made promises also to our partners in unity. Thus far, we have kept all of the promises that we have made. I said a few weeks ago when we had the launch for our convention that sometimes perhaps I have kept the promise to a fault, but as someone who believes in keeping promises, as a principled individual, the People's Action Movement as a principled political party, we continue to keep the promise, and so we will outline during the convention how we have done so. For me to do so at this particular point in time perhaps would not give persons the full reasons as to attend the convention, so I will not go into many of those promises.
Thank you so much, Minister Richards. Moving on now to one of the deputy leaders, the Honorable Lindsay Grant. Can we get a take from you on what can we expect from you as the candidate for number 4 at the convention, which is highly anticipated, again, under the theme, Keeping the Promise?
Well, thank you. I just want to say to the citizens and residents and people of St. Kitts and Nevis a very pleasant good morning. My take really is that we are having our 57th annual convention of the People's Action Movement under the theme Keeping the Promise. I believe that it is a very important convention. I believe it's going to be a convention like no other convention. I know last year when we were in the hometown of the political leader, we had a mammoth convention, but this year will surpass that for sure. I believe it's important that at every step of the way, we engage our rank and file, we engage our base to determine if we are doing what we said we would do and continue to. And this is really an opening for us to engage our constituents again, engage our rank and file to indicate to them that we have before this time kept the promise. During the currency of this period, we are keeping the promise, and we intend to keep the promise going forward. I think this is a very, very important convention. It comes at a critical juncture in our nation's history. We have had a difficult 2 years under the pandemic, but we have kept our heads above the water, and we can only go from strength to strength now. And so we're telling all of those who would be present on Sunday, March the 13th at St. Mary's Park that we intend to push forward, engage our constituents, engage the country, and of course making life better for each and every single citizen of the country, putting people first, which has always been our motto for the past 57 years.
Thank you so much, Minister Grant. Now, Minister Hamilton, the convention is coming, will be in your constituency, Kayon. What does this mean for constituents in Kayon, and what message would you say it sends?
Good morning, sir. Good morning to all of my family across St. Kitts and Nevis, especially those in the PAM family, and indeed those who are the family of St. Kitts and Nevis. A very good morning to all of you. Those of you who are viewing, I trust that you will participate and help us to inform you as much as possible of the events taking place by the People's Action Movement. We are on the road, and we have had 1 or 2 build-up events. Last evening, for example, we were in West Bastia. Tomorrow, there will be church service in Sandy Point, and unfortunately, I will not be there, and I have to tell you why. Just so you know, this convention, 57, comes on the heels of what we will call International Women's Day. International Women's Day is on the 8th of March, that's next week, Tuesday. And I mention it because the People's Action Movement, when you think about it, has been the party that has been championing the cause of women. It dated all the way back to Mary Charles, and I have to thank the people of Molyneux who have been with the People's Action Movement since then, giving us Mary Charles for an opportunity for a while to serve us as the first woman to be accepted and voted for in an election in St. Kitts and Nevis. And further, we had Dame Constance Mitchell, who was the first elected representative. So in terms of women and leading women in St. Kitts and Nevis, the People's Action Movement has been there at the forefront with all of that. And so it is important that we're having this convention on the heels of this International Women's Day. And I trust that many women, indeed all, will come out to the convention on Sunday and be rewarded and awarded, and to recognize how much the People's Action Movement has transformed the lives of women over its time in office and even before getting in office. The convention, of course, is on Sunday. It will be at the St. Mary's Park in Kayon. It is historic. As far as I can recall, it is the first time a convention is being held in Kayon, and I trust that it will outdo what we did in Sandy Point last year. So I look forward to seeing all of those individuals come out, and at least let us have a grand time for 57 PAM Convention.
Thank you so much, Minister Hamilton. Now to you, Mrs. Gray Brooks. Now, you are a newcomer on the scene in terms of being launched as the PAM candidate for East Bastia. What can we expect from you on Sunday's convention?
Good morning, and I want to extend morning greetings to those listening via radio, and I would also like to extend special greetings to those in East Bastille. This convention is, as my colleagues would have indicated, one that we expect to be for the books. I have had the opportunity over a number of years to be part of the convention planning committee. I think last year we exceeded all expectations, and this year would be to the same standards but a little higher. We want to show persons how not only within the People's Action Movement, my colleagues would have kept the promise to their supporters, but they would have kept the promise to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis throughout their individual constituencies. Now, this would be the first time that I would be part of the team in terms of being a candidate, and so I intend to highlight how my colleagues have kept the promise and how I intend to support them in doing so. The People's Action Movement always believe in putting people first, and I think our work has spoken for itself. Now, Sunday's convention, it is one that we want to ensure that persons have a grand time. The speeches keep them uplifted. So we want everyone to come out at St. Mary's Park on Sunday. It will be a packed program, and there will be something for everybody. I don't want to reveal too much, as my political leader would have indicated. We want to keep people excited, and so I extend a special invitation to those persons in constituency number 1. I would be addressing you for the very first time as your candidate, and I want to, in advance, thank the team that has been working very hard to put off this convention. There are a number of activities that have been put in place leading up, which we dub the road to convention, and so everything has been going great, and we look forward to a fabulous week ahead, and we look forward to addressing the nation, those residents at home and abroad, on the 13th of March. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Gray Brooks. Now, as you said, Minister Richards, this is an opportunity for the People's Action Movement to rally your troops and, of course, ready the supporters of the party. This, perhaps, you would realize, most of you would realize that the political climate in St. Kitts and Nevis, particularly in St. Kitts, is quite active in terms of what is happening on social media and all over. At Sunday's convention, would we see the announcement or launch of other candidates, or any other plans within the party at Sunday's convention? Can you speak to that?
At this particular point in time, we do not have any plans to launch any other candidates outside of the 5 persons that you are seeing. Mm-hmm. Of course, if something changes between now and Sunday, our plans may also change. I have made it pellucidly clear that part of keeping the promise for the People's Action Movement would be promise that is not kept by other political entities, then of course the People's Action Movement will field a slate of full candidates. I have made it clear that the People's Action Movement is committed to unity. When the People's Action Movement entered this particular arrangement, there are some promises which we made not just to the electorate, but amongst the different political entities. We have kept our side of the promise. As a matter of fact, when we entered this arrangement in 2015, we agreed then to have, for example, a PLP contest 2 of the seats in St. Kitts, and CCM contest all 3 of the seats in Nevis. We have not fielded any candidates in Nevis. We did not field a candidate in 2015 in constituencies number 7 and number 3. In 2020, we made an arrangement whereby the PLP was able to field a candidate in constituency number 6. Again, we did not field any candidate in Nevis. So we have kept the promise. And as such, as I said, if our partners do not intend to keep that promise, then it only means that the People's Action Movement would have to make changes. What I can say to you further relative to the convention is that we have a gospel artist in the person of Bridget Bloucher who would be performing. We have some local acts, so that when Mrs. Gray Brooks, our candidate for constituency number 1, indicated to you that it is going to be a packed convention, it is going to be a convention which offers something for everyone. Indeed, we are offering different things for the different persons, the different stakeholders who we expect to attend the convention next week, Sunday, in the town of Keyon. It is interesting that, in the past we would have had it in the city of Bastia, then we moved to the town of Sandy Point, and the next one is now in the town of Keyon.
Thank you so much. We'll take a short break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we continue Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9. Stick and stay. You are listening to members of the People's Action Movement speaking on the convention, which is slated for Sunday, March 13, 2022 in Keyon. Let's take this short break, and we will be right back.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. For those of you who are just tuning in, we have the senior members of the People's Action Movement speaking on their convention, which is set for Sunday, March 13. And of course, they are using the opportunity to encourage you to come on out to this event, which all of them have dubbed to be something that will be exciting, a major event, and bigger and better than the one previously held in Sandy Point. And as the political leader just said, it was also held in Bastia. Now, I know that there are a number of pre-activities happening leading up to Convention Day on the 13th. What are some of those activities that have happened and those that are yet to happen? Minister Powell or, okay, Mrs. Gray Brooks?
Well, so far, we have had the barbecue and games night last night at the Limekeel parking lot. That was in constituency number 3. Persons were able to have some fun and excitement while enjoying a nice meal and having a little camaraderie with the candidates. Tomorrow, we are going to church at the St. Anne's Anglican Church in Sandy Point. And so we have not just only the executive members attending church, but members and supporters of the People's Action Movement. A little later in the evening, the National Women's Group of our party will be hosting a cocktail at party headquarters where persons can come on out and have a nice, relaxing afternoon whereby they can enjoy good atmosphere and good company whilst they can partake in a nice glass of wine. We also have coming up this week our delegates convention whereby they would have the opportunity to elect the executive for the party to serve the interests and administration of the party over the next coming year. And then after that, we would have on Friday an event which we dub Forward. There are more details to come. This event would be held at the Frigate Bay Strip, but it will be an entertaining event for the younger persons and those who feel that they are young at heart. So we extend an invitation to persons to come on out and support our events. And for persons who just feel like staying home, we would be doing a constituency hop throughout the constituencies, starting in constituency number 5, where we had our last convention, and we would journey from constituency 5 to constituency 8, whereby we would more or less pass the baton. So we would come through constituencies 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and culminate in number 8, where we would have a media blitz, and then it's Sunday, the big day, Convention 57.
Right, thank you so much for that, Mrs. Gray Brooks. Minister Powell, in your capacity as chairman, I would assume that you have some oversight of these activities. And as Mrs. Gray Brooks just said, she gave a list of what happened and what will be happening in terms of the constituency day. With there being other constituencies such as 7 and 3, will anything be happening in those constituencies as well?
Well, as indicated, we actually did have an event in constituency 3 last night.
Right.
The People's Action Movement has been a national party from inception, and so we still maintain our groups in all 8 constituencies on St. Kitts, despite not fielding candidates in 3 of them. We are not we're not necessarily having events in every single constituency, but we did have one in number 3.
Thank you so much. No, perhaps most of you would anticipate this question, but in terms of the perhaps logistics is not the correct word, but in terms of the planning for convention on the 13th, challenges in terms of COVID and the restrictions and all of that, what can you say? Would it be different in terms of COVID restrictions from the convention in Sandy Point? And what can people expect in that regard on the 13th?
Well, if I may answer that, we intend to abide by all of the necessary protocols to ensure that we have a safe and healthy convention in Keon. We would have done the same thing last year in Sandy Point. Difference being at least we have the benefit of a significant level of vaccination amongst most of our persons, and so we feel a lot more comfortable. We are proud of the fact that as a member of this Team Unity administration, we played a very significant role in ensuring that we managed the pandemic here in St. Kitts and Nevis to a very high standard. And so as a result or benefit of that management, of which we were a significant part, we now have significantly reduced restrictions, particularly in terms of mass events and that sort of thing. And so we are confident that we will be able to comfortably and safely host a very large event when it comes to our 57th convention on next Sunday.
Thank you so much for that. Now, while Minister Richards, the political leader, spoke to the reason behind this convention being keeping the promise and reaffirming PAM's commitment to team unity, we also have here where you guys serve as ministers of government, education, tourism, public infrastructure, social development. What can we expect while I know this is strictly within the People's Action Movement, can we expect from yourselves, let's say Minister of Education, Minister of Tourism, any plans you may have that you'd want to share, not just with your supporters at this event, but with the nation as part of keeping the promise?
As you rightfully indicated, this is not a government event. This is a political event. And whilst there may be one or two things that come out in terms of our ministerial duties, if that happens, it would be in the context of political promises that we would have made, and our ability to see out those promises through our ministerial portfolios. But this is a political event, and so even while we sit here, we're not sitting here as ministers. We're sitting as the leader, the deputy leaders, the chairperson, general secretary of the People's Action Movement, and that will be the tone of the convention. But as I said, there are a number of things that may very well come out, because we have made promises and we continue to keep those promises and see them out through not just our representation in our individual constituencies, but also through our work in our ministerial capacities.
Now, as you said, you've made promises, you've kept promises. The convention is being held under the theme Keeping the Promise. Can you speak to some of the achievements within the People's Action Movement, or even within your ministries, that you want to share on Sunday? While, yes, it's not a government event, but it is an opportunity for you to rally your troops, to ready the supporters of the People's Action Movement. Can you speak to some of the achievements of the party, and would you say that the party is in a better position now than before for the upcoming 2025 general election? Minister Richards?
Certainly, one can speak to a number of promises that we would have made to the electorate and also to our individual constituents that we have made and that we have kept. If I start, for example, in constituency number 1, though she isn't the candidate, Mrs. Natasha Gray, well, though she isn't the elected representative, my apologies, she is the candidate but not the elected representative.
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon to be the elected representative. She has made a number of promises to persons in constituency number 1 that she continues to keep. She has a soup kitchen in which she is able to assist the elderly and the indigent within that constituency. She has a book club whereby school children are assisted. Every start of a new school year, she has been given school materials to those attending the primary, the secondary CFBC within her constituency. So she has been doing cleanups within the constituency. As recently as in January, they would have done a cleanup on the Newtown Bay Road, but she has done it elsewhere within the constituency. If you go to constituency number 4, where the Honorable Lindsey Grant sponsors a breakfast for children in that constituency out of his pocket, costing thousands of dollars, because he recognizes that it is not each parent who is able to afford to give the child a breakfast before going off to school. Of course, having a good nutrition is important to a child being able to develop in so many different ways, but in particular to be able to go to school and concentrate on the different lessons provided by the teachers. I know that there are some students who are supposed to be going off to Dubai within a week or so, and he has assisted in sponsoring some of those students from his constituency. We have seen him making donations to the schools within the constituency. He has sponsored sporting activities within the constituencies, and there are many other activities that perhaps he can best speak to than I can. You have similar activities being undertaken by the Honorable Jonel Powell within constituency number 2. He's sponsoring sporting activities, assisting students each year as they go back to school, getting persons employment, whether within government or outside of government. And so these are activities which, of course, you do not necessarily use the fact that you are a minister of government, but you recognize that you are a constituency representative and you have given a commitment, a promise to the persons within the constituency, and so you keep the promise that you have given to those constituents. You go to constituency number 8, and again you see the Honorable Eugene Hamilton doing similar things. He has assisted those involved in the creative arts in that constituency. A year or two ago, he would have given some musical equipment to the young persons in that constituency so that they can use it within a studio there. He has assisted them with a different sporting equipment, whether it is basketball, footballs, etc. I recall when I was the minister with responsibility for sports, in particular the basketball court in Keys, and I think in Keyon, he would have personally gone out and procured basketball rims and poles, etc., to outfit those particular sporting facilities. You see him at the school, whether it is assisting with scholarships, giving books, etc., to students, because we recognize that our young people, they are part of keeping that promise. We have made a sacred promise in particular to our young people because we recognize that they are the future leaders. They are the ones who will not only take this party forward, but more importantly, when it comes to the development of the country, we have to assist those persons so that they can build upon the legacy that we have left. And you know, for me, that really is an essential part of keeping the promise. Because the promise really isn't about us. The promise is building a better nation. The promise is ensuring that when we would have moved on, whether from politics or from this earth, we have left a better federation that all persons can enjoy. And that encompasses more or less keeping the promise. Because keeping the promise is about building a federation that all of us can be proud of. I can speak to a number of similar activities within my own constituency, whether it is scholarships, whether it is assisting with sporting activities, whether it is assisting persons with so many different things. The list goes on and on. I have a spelling bee coming up within a few weeks at the Sandy Point Primary School that I am the sponsor for. And so you see from that individual level in terms of keeping the promise. Now, you also asked about the keeping the promise in terms of what we would have done for persons as ministers of government. The Honorable Eugene Hamilton has indicated that he would like to add something, so I would allow him to do so, and also to speak to some of the promises that we have kept as ministers of government. He can speak to housing, he can speak to tourism, he can speak to education, he can speak to infrastructural development, he can speak to crime, so many other different things, the CBI program, etc.
Right, go ahead.
Thank you, Leader Sean. This is a very important question that gives us an opportunity to respond not only in our capacity as a candidate in a constituency, but also as the representative. Indeed, that is why people elect us. They elect us to be able to do things that we will not be able to do, or they will not be able to do for themselves, and that we have to do it from the position of being a representative. And without this can take us hours, but I'll just touch on a few. Because you know that before the Team Unity administration, in fact, it was under a PAM administration that the first time you ever had lights to play sport at night. That was at Warner Park when football got lights under the PAM administration. It had never happened before. And it is since the Team Unity administration that lighting has gone into the communities, into Keyon, into Sandy Point, and into Tabernacle, where young people can, at least at night, at evenings, be engaged in sporting activities, and I will say burning up their energies, and rather than being attracted towards criminal activities, they can use their energies for good, creating and playing in sporting activities. And you know that there's a demand for homes in St. Kitts and Nevis. And if it is one thing that the government and this Team Unity administration and this Minister of Housing has been able to accomplish, is a significant number of homes in the Federation in the short time. Well over 500 in the 7 years that we have been there. And it is no mean accomplishment. After all, a home today is perhaps the largest investment an individual can make, and it is a place where you should feel safe when you go there. And I feel proud that the People's Action Movement, that this candidate, this representative, has been able to stand up for all of the other colleagues of mine in the country and be able to deliver homes for the people in St. Kitts. Of course, I won't talk to the distribution of land, because land is a normal thing, but business development, which I spoke about in Keyon, we have seen business development commence. Yes, there's more work to do, but certainly Keyon did not have a gas station before. Well, at least of the quality that we have. Certainly didn't have the number of restaurants before. And we have other businesses just below the Cabbage Tree housing area there, where we have a commercial area. And so that we have seen the genesis and the development of small businesses in the Keyon community. We have spoken to how the St. Peter's area is growing so fast, growing faster than any other part of the country. And they had a dilapidated health center. That is on stream, because that particular area has, I will say, the largest contingent of homeowners and householders as well. And this is important. We have promised it and we have delivered it. There are a few promises that I will still make, and make sure that they happen before I leave government. My leader, Sean, has already promised me the water in Keyon will be resolved. That is a promise that we made, and it's a promise that we will keep. Then, of course, I am looking now, and I will make some promises on Sunday. I don't know if I should hint you yet, but certainly I would like to make sure that the Keyon High School is renamed, that the Keyon Primary School is renamed, that the St. Mary's Park is renamed, that there's an Ison Wharton Center for Education and Development, because Ison Wharton, who has a long political history and also a social and an educational history, but the first person to bring reading or teach reading to persons in Keyon in the early 20th century, when people were not able to read, Ison Wharton, and I have another promise to keep on that. Of course, there are other promises. I know that some people in Keyon are always talking about the Gut and Cunningham, which is undermining. That is a promise I will make and we will keep on the national stage. I certainly intend to keep the promise of universal health for all. It is a promise that I will revisit again at the convention and will keep. During the next few years that we are in the second term. Of course, right now as we speak, women are benefiting from the training program that we are conducting, benefiting from a women entrepreneur training program, entrepreneurship training program which is taking place. It was only last week, yes, that we had the second graduation in St. Kitts, where persons who are involved in culinary work, arts, benefited from that program. Some 10 persons who also benefited financially to the tune of $3,000 each to help them to develop their small businesses. So we are looking at women. When I started out earlier speaking about women and how the People's Action Movement has impacted the lives of women. And this is why I'm so proud of the program we're doing right now. Because many women, one woman walked up to me and she said, Minister Hamilton, I have been doing this thing for a long time, But just coming to this class is like starting all over. I learned so much. I'm glad you chose me. And she has been cooking for nearly 20 years and felt like she just got a new energy because of that training. And so, yes, we are keeping our promise to the people. We will continue to keep our promise. And I can assure you that at the end of the opportunity that you give us now to serve for a second term, you will feel that it is important to give us a third, fourth, and fifth term.
Thank you so much, Minister Hamilton. The phone lines are open and we're taking your calls here. We'll take a few calls just before we wrap up today's program. Please call us at 466-0989 and 762-0989. For those of you who are just tuning in, you are listening to the senior members of the People's Action Movement speaking on their convention, which is set for Sunday, March 13 in Keyon. And each member, they have taken the opportunity to speak on what one can expect at Sunday's convention and what has been happening in the People's Action Movement, a coalition partner within the Team Unity administration. Again, the convention is being held under the theme, Keeping the Promise. And as the political leader just stated, that is what they intend to do, and that is what they will be speaking on, Keeping the Promise. We'll take a break to give a shout out to the sponsors. When we come back, we take some calls right here on Inside the News on 1FM 98.9. Let's take this break and we'll be right back.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
people make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9, and we have our first call for this morning. Let's head to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
President, good morning. Thanks for taking our call. The same to you. We want to say greetings and greetings to your guests, you know? All right. Let's start here. Your coalition within the Team Unity government, what is the situation up to the time? Is it something that you all can say is going in the direction that you set out upon the starting? And the Honorable Sean Richards has said that he intends to be the next Honorable Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis. Well, that leaves to the electorate, of course. Do you think that you are putting the work and continue putting in the work to move the electorate to do that? And if it be so, what will be your position in terms of the cannabis industry? Would it be something that you move forward into ASAP, or will we be seeing the tardiness that we have been seeing for a while. To see it, we want to say best wishes. We come from a home that our mother was labor and our father was farm. So we have that mix coming up, and we want to say again best wishes to the People's Action Movement, and we want to leave a memo by saying that remember it is always the duty of electoral people who are elected to serve, to serve, to serve, to serve.
All right. Thank you, caller, so much for your contribution. Minister Richards?
Thank you. I'll speak to the second question first, which asks about our commitment to the cannabis industry. When the legislation went to Parliament relative to the cannabis industry, the candidates, the elected representatives of the People's Action Movement, gave full support to that particular piece of legislation. Hence, I think it is clear to all persons that we are supportive of the development of the cannabis industry. We do accept that perhaps we have not moved fast enough as persons would like, relative to ensuring that those who have an interest in participating in developing that industry have been able to do so. And we give our full commitment to continue to give support to regulations, to legislation, to policies that would move that industry forward as soon as possible. On the first question that you asked, whether or not things are going in the direction that the Team Unity would have set about prior to 2015, I have said and I repeated that the People's Action Movement is fully committed to Team Unity. I am committed to Team Unity. Of course, within a coalition government in particular, especially when you have three political entities involved, it becomes difficult at times to more or less synchronize thoughts, because you come not only as different individuals, you come as different political entities. What I would say, though, is that yes, we have differences at times. And again, I want to repeat the theme that we have for our convention, keeping the promise, because I personally believe that at times when we do have differences, those differences come out of persons, representatives, not keeping the promise or not willing to keep the promise. And so we have to remind each other as to what the promise is, whether it is the promise to the people or the promise to the individual political parties. I do believe that once we are able to keep all of those promises in terms of Team Unity, it would make for much better relations amongst all of the different entities involved in Team Unity.
Thank you so much. We have another caller on the line. Let's take this call. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. I would like to suggest that the theme, keeping the promise, rings hollow when one of the main promises made in 2015 was the good governance agenda. If you look back for the past 7 years, and it should not have taken 7 years to introduce systems that make sure you have good governance. Could have done that in 6 months if there was a commitment to it. And I would suggest, beyond the commitment to, even before a commitment to Team Unity, the party and parties should have been committed to good governance, because all of the drawbacks that are all the difficulties that are happening now is a result of not embracing the tenets of good governance, accountability, things like integrity in public life, freedom of information. These things hold government accountable. And if you're not committed to them, and you've given, Mr. Richards have been given ample opportunity to differentiate himself from the others when he was asked about the good governance agenda. Basically, he's doing the same thing as all the others are doing, kicking the can down the road. You mean not even one of the persons in Team Unity, in the cabinet of Team Unity, can tell the others that we promise this, deliver. But, you know, in a sense, it's not surprising if the Prime Minister himself feels that, well, we're in a good place insofar as that is concerned, and he's going to make statements like none of his colleagues can hold a candle of correction to him, then I guess we should expect nothing better from Team Unity. But I think that it's the failure to deal with these good governance questions, which were the mantra of Team Unity at the outset, is what's responsible for the predicament that the parties find themselves in, the coalition find themselves in, the country finds itself in. Okay, then.
Thank you so much, Carla, for your contribution. Minister Richards, you're going to tackle that question?
Yes, I will respond to that question. First of all, I honestly did not expect any different in terms of opinion coming from that particular caller, because he is one who is opposed to the government, and just about all of his public pronouncements have been critical of the government. I continue by saying that good governance, integrity in public life would entail so many different aspects. Part of it would be that when you work for the government, when you receive a salary from the government, that persons know what service it is you are giving, not to the government, but to the people for the salary that you have received. So that when a government changes and one begins to look at the payroll, one is able to clearly identify the employees of the government, which department in government they have been employed, and what particular service that individual has been providing to the people. And perhaps Mr. McMahon himself can speak to that, and he can shed some light on that particular issue, because there are questions as to what specifically it is he used to do on behalf of the former administration when he received a monthly salary from the former administration. Now, he says that the theme rings hollow because of issues to do with good governance. One would admit that the Team Unity administration has not put into effect the full slate of legislation relative to good governance. But that isn't the only promise that the Team Unity administration would have made to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. You enter into a business relation with someone, you enter into a general relationship with someone, you get married to someone. And perhaps it is not everything that the business has been able to achieve. It is not everything that you have been able to achieve in that particular relationship. But one cannot say that in terms of your promise to the other partner that it rings hollow because of one or two things that you haven't accomplished to date. When you take a vow, for example, to get married to someone, you speak to, for better, for worse, you speak to a number of different things. But there is no individual which is perfect. There is no government which is perfect. And while we have been in government for 7 years and we haven't put in effect the full slate of legislation, we are still committed to putting into effect the legislation that we have promised to the persons. But the government has achieved so many other things. We gave a commitment to the persons in terms of the reduction of crime. When you take crime where you were losing 30-something lives to murders each and every single year, and you now have more persons being able to enjoy that sense of security, that sense of freedom within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. For me, that perhaps is utmost, it is of the utmost importance, because as a government, you have a sacred duty to protect the lives of your citizens. And the government has reduced crime significantly. When you look at 10 and 12 murders per year as compared to 30-something, that is a significant achievement. And so that has been part of keeping the promise. When you take the poverty alleviation program, where you have persons, indigent persons, who, though they may not have received an increase in salary, whether it is from government or within the private sector, but receiving an additional $500 per month, it means that in terms of their monthly income, that has increased significantly by $500. If you take the $3,000, for example, which is the mark that you have, the threshold that you have to meet in order to get that money, and $500 extra that you're receiving per month, that is more than a 10-15% increase in income that you are receiving on a monthly basis. And that has gone a long way for many persons within the Federation. We gave a commitment towards the reduction of VAT, the complete removal of VAT, on food, funeral expenses, educational services, etc. That particular promise, it has been kept. We said to those who now occupy the homes built by government, that you would get a significant decrease in your monthly mortgage amount. Again, that is a promise which has been made to the people, so that you now have persons paying 2% in terms of interest. 2%. Which bank can you go into, get a mortgage for a house, and pay 2% interest? I wish when I got my mortgage, I got it at 2%. How many of the persons in here has a mortgage paying 2%? Very few persons. But the government recognizing that it has a duty to ensure that we have a better standard of living for persons, better housing for persons, ensured that we looked at the interest rate that persons are paying to ensure that it is more affordable for persons.
Right.
And so there are those out there who I'm sure keeping the promise isn't ringing hollow for them. And I can go on and on in terms of many other things that this Team Unity administration, that the People's Action Movement has been a part of in terms of keeping the promise and uplifting the standard of living of persons here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to have to break for the headline news, so can I get some closing comments from everyone before we break for the headline news, starting with the political leader?
Again, I want to take the opportunity to invite persons to the St. Mary's Park on the 13th of March for the annual convention of the People's Action Movement. The convention is being held under the theme, Keeping the Promise. We have myself as his featured speaker. We have the guest speaker, the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley. We have remarks coming from our first Prime Minister and only living national hero, Sir Kennedy. You will be hearing from our candidates. We have different artists who you also will be hearing from. It is a convention like no other, a convention in which we will outline how we have kept the promise, how we continue to keep the promise to all of the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. So whether you're from constituencies number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, Nevis 9, 10, or 11, you are invited to our convention. I think it begins around 2 o'clock on the 13th, and again, I repeat, St. Mary's Park in constituency number 8 in Cayon in particular.
Thank you, Minister.
I will just say, come to my hometown. It has been my stomping ground from birth. It is a wonderful place. Come and enjoy our hospitality and have a great day on Sunday 13th, the 57th convention of the People's Action Movement.
Thank you so much, Minister Powell.
Well, I would end by indicating that although only being in government for a year and a half, I have shown that in that capacity I've been able to keep the promise to the people of Central Bastille, as well as to the people of the country, whether it was through negotiating CPL, which ended up in economic benefits of some $8 million over the course of a month, or the ability to host Carnival during the last 2 years of pandemic and allowing for so much not just excitement, but economic activity and jobs for young people. We continue to, as a party, do things like this to ensure that we keep that promise to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I join in the chorus in inviting people to come out, inviting the members and friends of the People's Action Movement, and all in general to come to our 57th convention in Keon next Sunday. It will be one for the ages.
Thank you so much. Minister Grant?
Well, I just would like to welcome one and all and invite them to the 57th Convention of the People's Action Movement in St. Mary's, Keon, on March the 13th, 2022. Yes, it's under the umbrage of keeping the promise, and I would tell you I kept the promise. I'm still keeping the promise to my constituency number 4. I've kept the promise to move the economy upward and onwards in the portfolios that I have the opportunity to lead. And I think this is just going to be the hallmark of what's to come under the banner of the People's Action Movement come March 13th at St. Mary's in Keon.
Thank you so much. And Mrs. Gray Brooks?
I would also like to continue to invite persons to come on out on Sunday, 13th March at St. Mary's Park for our convention under the theme Keeping the Promise, where you will not only hear from myself and my colleagues about how they have kept the promise, but they will also show how the Team Unity administration has transformed our nation with the good governance agenda, with a few things that we can outline, like the Freedom of Information Act and the Integrity in Public Life Act. I also want to highlight how I have made promises and kept promises to my constituents in constituency number 1, and some of the plans that I have for them in constituency number 1. And so we invite one and all to come on out. Bring your flags, bring your whistles, bring your mother, bring your brother, bring your sister, and come and ensure that you have a grand time with the People's Action Movement as we continue to keep the promise for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
All right, thank you so much. We'll take this break for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News right here on WINNFM 98.9. Stick and stay. We will be right back.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that National Bank offers very favorable terms and low interest rate to switch your home mortgage? Our in-house legal department will process your mortgage in a jiffy and free of cost. Switch your home mortgage now and get a peace of mind knowing that we are here for you. National Bank, always here.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Dealey Walwyn, people you can trust.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Yolanda Weeks.
Making the headlines.
Minister Lindsey Grant, quote, "I have waited long enough. Either charge me or exonerate me." CDMA audit of St. Kitts and Nevis's disaster management framework continues.
Autopsy performed on 36-year-old Deshaun Leader. CARICOM pushes agriculture agenda in search of food security at the 33rd intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government. Internationally, the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog has met Iranian officials in Tehran as talks in Vienna to revive the 2015 nuclear deal appears to be reaching an end. Now, the details.
Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Lindsey Grant, is calling on authorities to decide whether or not they will level criminal charges against him, following a highly publicized verbal altercation between him and police officers 2 months ago. Minister Grant, in a statement on WIN FM on Saturday morning, March 5, said,
"I believe I have waited long enough. I am therefore calling on the authorities either to charge me and allow me to have my day in court or to exonerate me. I am well aware of the political climate in which we find ourselves today, and I'm also mindful of the Machiavellian efforts of a misguided few who, for personal power and self-aggrandizement, continue to destroy the fabric of unity that we all have fought so hard to weave."
Minister Grant said he believes that there are elements within the government at work to charge him. Minister Grant expressed frustration with the allegedly naming of party leader Honorable Sean Richards in official reports, despite his absence during the altercation.
My information has led me to the inescapable conclusion that elements within the same government in which I serve are hard at work to not only orchestrate charges against me, but perhaps to achieve some narrow political gain by seeking to wrongfully implicate others. I assure you that this push for formal charges against me, just as the unfortunate naming of my party leader in police reports of this incident, when he was not even present at the time, has little to do with the law and has everything to do with the unfortunate politics of our time.
According to initial reports, police were called to an event at Last Lap Bar to investigate possible breaches of the COVID-19 regulations on gatherings. Mobile phone footage filmed by the officers and the establishment's security system captured a tense verbal exchange between Minister Grant and officers on duty. The pictures were widely circulated and led to many calls from political opponents and some citizens for Minister Grant to resign from his government-appointed positions and be charged. However, Minister Grant opposes the suggestions by opposition and remains adamant that his name will be cleared of wrongdoing.
I wish to make it clear that I am confident that I am committed no breach of the law, and I and my many witnesses stand ready and willing to defend myself if and when any formal charges are leveled against me. I accept that the exchange with the police officers during the incident was unfortunate. I also accept that I am to be held, and quite properly so, to a higher standard of behavior than others due to my position. I accept that my constituents and the people of my beloved country expect only the best behavior, privately and publicly, from their elected representatives.
Minister Grant ended his statement by expressing his unwavering support of the local police.
Our police and our security forces have always had and will continue to have my fullest support.
Stakeholders on St. Kitts gathered together at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort Ballroom on Friday morning, March 4, to engage in a disaster management orientation meeting. The event was scheduled by the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency (CDEMA) Coordinating Unit to help develop a comprehensive disaster management framework in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The disaster management framework is an innovative concept for reducing the risk and loss associated with natural and technological hazards while limiting the effects of climate change to ensure the enhancement of sustainable development. The primary purpose of the audit is data collection, which allows for the National Emergency Management Agency (NEMA) to assess weaknesses, strengths, and resources, including funding. CDEMA consultant Ms. Denise Murray engaged stakeholders during the audit in an interactive session focusing on the 4 phases of the disaster management cycle: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Group work was carried out where stakeholders responded to questions by ratings of 1 to 3 and completed an assessment form. The session also provided an opportunity for stakeholders to voice their concerns on various matters relating to disaster management in St. Kitts. As outlined during the meeting, some areas of major importance to disaster management are developing disaster plans, the availability of volunteers, information communication technology ICT development, saving of assets, and food security. A similar orientation was held in Nevis on Thursday, March 3, at the Nevis Performing Arts Center, where stakeholders on the island could assist in drafting the disaster management framework. According to the National Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Abdias Samuel, quote, "The all-inclusive approach is visible within the agenda as we have integrated our colleagues from Nevis to participate in leading roles in our efforts to build national resilience to protect the lives and livelihoods of our citizens and residents. I am sure that many of us have seen the importance of having an all-of-society approach to managing a crisis as a small island state," end quote. Ms. Murray's work in the country continues until March 17, 2022, where she will also be conducting focused meetings with stakeholders within the disaster management structure.
The death of Deshaun Leader was the result of blood loss from a gunshot wound, according to resident pathologist Dr. Adrian Nunez. Dr. Nunez concluded through an autopsy carried out on March 2nd that death resulted from hypovolemic shock due to massive hemoperitoneum due to a gunshot wound to the back. The 36-year-old, originally from St. Paul's but resided in Crab Hill Sandy Point, was accosted by an armed assailant who shot at him. He tried to escape by running away, but the armed assailant chased him and continued firing. He later fell and succumbed to his injuries. Investigations into the matter are ongoing. In regional news, CARICOM pushes agriculture agenda in search of food security at the 33rd intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government. Primetime Caribbean has the story.
CARICOM leaders have embraced a plan to push for greater agricultural production in the region. Guyana presented a proposal to CARICOM leaders at the just-ended summit outlining an initiative aimed at a 25% reduction in the region's food bill by 2025. Guyana's President Irfan Ali highlighted that coffee, coconut, cocoa, spices, industrial hemp, and palm oil are high-value imports into CARICOM with potential for development in the region. Production is expected to increase between 25 to 700% to be able to significantly reduce food imports by 2025. Guyana will host a meeting in May for government and private sector bodies to discuss investment financing in the sector. Speaking at an end-of-conference press briefing, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley said the region is making good progress on the issue.
We're happy that we've gotten this far. The next step is on May 19th, an investment conference in Georgetown, Guyana, May 19th to the 21st, where we seek to bring together both the public and private sector in order to determine what the investment opportunities are.
President Ali had announced that Trinidad-based Republic Bank will be offering up to US $100 million in financing for the development of the agriculture sector. Motley said there could be some level of integration regarding regional production, especially as it seeks to be self-sufficient in such areas as poultry and feed.
President Ali was able to make the point that 25,000 hectares will be needed to be dedicated to corn and soya production. And if we can do that throughout the region, not just Guyana, Guyana is more than willing, but Suriname, Belize, Jamaica in particular. And then in terms of those of us who produce poultry, there are about 5 or 6 countries that are reasonably self-sufficient within the region, more or less.
Prime Minister Motley said the production of root crops will also be a major area.
President Ali also looked at a number of root crops and a number of vegetables that are the main ones that we import into the region: broccoli, cauliflower, pumpkin, etc. And in addition to that, he then took 3 products for which there is great potential value added.
All CARICOM states joined the world community at the United Nations General Assembly to overwhelmingly vote to reprimand Russia for invading Ukraine. The resolution demanded that Moscow stop fighting and withdraw its military forces, an action that aims to diplomatically isolate Russia at the world body. The resolution, supported by 141 of the Assembly's 193 members, passed in a rare emergency session called by the UN Security Council while Ukrainian forces battled to defend the port of Kherson in the face of airstrikes and a devastating bombardment that forced hundreds of thousands of people to flee. Cuba abstained. Russian tourists holidaying in Venezuela's tropical Margarita Island began returning home earlier this week, two tourism industry sources said, as Europe and North America closed their airspace to Russian flights over the war in Ukraine. Of the about 1,000 Russian tourists who arrived in Venezuela during the last 2 weeks, some 400 left the South American country on a charter flight on Tuesday, one source said. The route of the flight was unclear. The remaining 600 are set to leave on 2 flights scheduled for March 5 and March 8, the 2 sources said. The flow of Russian tourists to Venezuela has been increasing since late last year, part of a government strategy to buoy up an industry battered by Venezuela's long-running economic crisis, danger from crime, and cuts to public services like electricity and water. 20 Jamaican students who fled Ukraine to Poland following the Russian invasion have safely landed in Jamaica. The students arrived on a flight at Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay on Wednesday evening from Germany. Their airfares were paid for by the government. Meantime, Trinidad's Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amory Brown, says that the TNT national who was trapped in Ukraine has made it safely out. The minister tweeted, quote, "After a long and difficult journey, our Trinidad and Tobago national has now successfully crossed the border from Ukraine to Hungary," unquote. He said the man was also accompanied by his wife, who is a Ukrainian citizen. The Trinidadian had been living and working in Kyiv for the past 11 years, but remained undocumented as he had not been registered with the country's mission in Brussels.
We now bring you these international reports.
International pressure, crippling sanctions, and even the threat of war. So far, nothing has discouraged Iran from its nuclear ambitions. Some analysts say its determination is part of Tehran's strategy.
In addition to the medical needs, satiating the medical needs of the country, as well as the needs of tomorrow for the nuclear propulsion engine ships, this is also a punishment, a response actually to the West's hostility and to the Israelis' hostilities. This was somehow a declaration of a tit-for-tat policy from now on.
Iran has long desired nuclear technology. Following the Islamic Revolution in 1979, most countries cut off all nuclear cooperation with Tehran. And without reliable foreign fuel supplies, Iran started developing its own nuclear program. But as a consequence, it has been under economic sanctions since the 1990s. The West has been suspicious of the country's venture into nuclear energy, especially because of the high cost it has paid. Some experts also say it makes little sense, considering Iran is among the world's richest in natural resources. But Iran says its goals are peaceful, and it needs nuclear power to diversify its energy sector, as its oil fields will eventually be depleted. By giving up much control of its nuclear activities with the 2015 deal, Iran has also hoped to convince the West that it only means peace.
We will need peaceful nuclear energy sooner or later. If we fail to address these long-term issues today, we will face problems tomorrow. But the West imposes sanctions despite knowing our nuclear energy project is peaceful.
Since the US left the agreement in 2018, Iran has deployed centrifuges that can produce nuclear fuel more quickly and brought its uranium enrichment program closer to weapons-grade level.
Uranium enrichment is a dual-use technology available for both civilian and military purposes. When uranium is enriched to 5%, it can fuel nuclear power plants. At 20%, it can be used in research reactors, but 90% is nuclear weapon grade. And Iran has already enriched uranium up to 60%.
Western powers fear the ratio will only rise as negotiations in Vienna continue to stall.
There are serious concerns over Iran's nuclear program. Iran was obviously, building a site at Fordow that it did not declare. The whole nuclear crisis was kicked off because it was working on Natanz in Iraq, which it did not declare. And that was revealed by the Iranian opposition group. Obviously, when documents were the IAEA expected options, they found, links to the AQ Khan network. So there are serious concerns around Iran's nuclear program, which are legitimate.
Some analysts say just by having the technology that could be used to make a bomb, Iran would increase its sense of security and gain political influence in the Middle East. And its defiance of perceived Western hostility is a useful tool for its leaders in domestic politics. Rasul Sardar, Al Jazeera, Tehran.
When the Ukrainian-born oligarch Mikhail Friedman bought Athlone House in 2016, he paid more than $80 million for it in cash. He's now subject to international sanctions in the European Union, asset freezes and travel bans. But he's not, for now at least, facing sanctions here in the UK, meaning that this huge property is still very much in private hands. A man described in the EU as a close member of Vladimir Putin's inner circle. Telecanal Al Jazeera.
Unsurprisingly, we weren't invited in.
Sorry, we can give you any information.
Like many of Russia's big business tycoons with large investments in the UK, Friedman, the owner of Russia's Alpha Bank, has rubbed shoulders with British high society. But he's accused of having one foot in the business world and the other in the criminal world because of his membership of Putin's close inner circle of rich men who made their fortune buying and selling state assets after the collapse of the Soviet Union. They're allowed to hold on to their wealth if they help protect Putin's. That's until Russia's invasion of Ukraine and a tidal wave of international sanctions, the West's weapon of choice. But indecision over the speed of sanctions in the UK could allow some of Putin's associates to get their money out of the country before it's frozen.
Everybody is scrambling to move assets, sell things, get their loot out of harm's way. I fear that by the time we get to sanctions here in the UK, a lot of the assets will be gone.
In the past few days, the UK's most famous oligarch, Roman Abramovich, has been in a hurry to sell off Chelsea Football Club after 19 years of ownership. Like Friedman, Abramovich has avoided British sanctions so far, denying he has a seat at Putin's table.
There are a few more obvious signs of how entrenched Russian money is here in the British capital than Roman Abramovich's 15-bedroom mansion on one of the most expensive, heavily guarded streets in Europe. Now apparently on the market for $200 million.
Elsewhere, France and Germany have seized 2 super yachts owned by oligarchs Alisher Usmanov and Igor Sechin, with at least 5 other super yachts owned by Russian billionaires anchored or cruising in the Maldives, a country that doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US. Putin's money is on the move. The British government says there are legal reasons for a lag in sanctions being imposed to make sure they're watertight against legal challenges. But top lawyers warn those challenges may be few and far between.
Now we have a situation where no lawyer in London will happily take on a case like that because we will be criticised by government ministers. We will be identified by name in Parliament, named and shamed, and we will be criticised in the press.
There's a reason the British capital's been nicknamed Londongrad, allegedly used to launder vast sums of illicit Russian money, an era that could be coming to an end. But when it comes to sanctions, the government's been urged to keep up the pace or risk softening the blow. Neve Barker, Al Jazeera, London.
Now, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has obviously sent shockwaves right across this region and, of course, neighbouring countries, including Finland. Finland itself was invaded by the Soviet Union during the Second World War. And now, for the first time in the country's history, public opinion has shifted towards the country favouring joining NATO. And that's despite President Putin's threat of military and political consequences. Well, our World Affairs editor John Simpson reports from the Finnish-Polish border.
A Finnish border patrol sets out along the line of the frontier. Times are changing here. Russia's attack on Ukraine has been a profound shock to people in Finland, and a majority of Finns now want to give up their old neutrality and join the Western alliance. A solitary red post marks the point where Russian territory begins.
And so, as a direct consequence of the invasion of Ukraine and of Russia's heavy-handed warning to Finland not even to think about joining NATO, this could one day be the border between NATO and Russia. It's the precise opposite of what Russia wanted.
At the border crossing point, a steady line of Russians are coming into Finland. There are rumours that President Putin will soon introduce martial law, and plenty of people who don't agree with the invasion of Ukraine are getting out in case of trouble from the authorities. This student's one of them.
We tried to do something with our government, but it's nothing.
So while Vladimir Putin is in power, there's nothing much can be done. For Russians, coming to Finland is an escape from the dangers of life there. But for people on this side of the border, there's real fear that the tensions within Russia could boil over and engulf Finland itself. John Simpson, BBC News, Valima, on the Finnish border with Russia.
You were listening to the WINNFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were:
Minister Lindsey Grant, quote, "I have waited long enough. Either charge me or exonerate me." CDMA audit of St. Kitts and Nevis's disaster management framework continues.
Autopsy performed on 36-year-old Deshaun Leader. CARICOM pushes agriculture agenda in search of food security at the 33rd intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government. Internationally, the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog has met Iranian officials in Tehran as talks in Vienna to revive the 2015 nuclear deal appears to be reaching an end. Thank you for listening.
That was the Win FM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and National Bank.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Dealing well with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. DLE Walwyn, people you can trust.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. It is 12:44 and we are back for the second hour that is, of Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. Today is Saturday, the 5th day of March 2022, and I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who have just tuned in, this morning we had the senior members of the People's Action Movement, PAM, speaking on their convention, which is set for Sunday, March 13 in Cayon. And the convention is being held under the theme, Keeping the Promise. And if you were listening, you heard where the political leader, the Honorable Sean Richard, spoke to the selection of that theme, Keeping the Promise, and that the People's Action Movement intends to reaffirm its commitment to team unity at Sunday's convention, among other things. And so we're going to continue the Inside the News here this afternoon. They were only on for the first hour, but we'll continue the conversation along the lines of the People's Action Movement, Keeping the Promise. And I want to hear from you, the good listeners of WINNFM 98.9, your take on what was discussed earlier this morning. We have a call on the line. Let's head to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Greetings forwardly. Thanks for taking our call, Amid the back and forth chattering, we promise, kept, keeping, or not kept, not keeping, most humbly, here's a timely memo. He said, same 7-letter word, promise, at a comfort to a fool. Rightly adding this other memo, amid this our ways, the Westminster-style political system at a very dangerous tool. Its sole operation is all about divide and rule. The Honorable Premier of Nevis declared, Nevis is not fairly getting a fair share, from the Treasury. Is this the case? And if so, would you make this be an immediate reality once seated as the Honorable PM of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Well, sorry, not to cut you off, but I'm not sure if you're aware, but they were only on for the first hour. So they're not here at the moment.
They're listening.
Right, but go ahead.
They can come forth in any forum, Yeah, so even if they're not there, they should be listening. Is this so?
Right, yes.
Right, so we want to know, because remember the Honorable Sean Richard said he'll be the next Prime Minister of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. He declared that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Honorable Premier have declared that matters. So we want to know if that will be an immediate reality. If the Honorable Premier is telling the truth and the situation is so, we want to know if it will be an immediate reality once the leadership from PAM is seated, If down, blessed Lord.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. We're still taking your calls here on WINNFM 98.9. For those of you who are just tuning in, we had the members of the People's Action Movement. Now, the caller, they raised the concern of the CBI tying it to the Honorable Sean Richards, who has indicated time and time again that he intends to be the country's next prime minister, and he did make that pronouncement on media, on the national media, where he intends to be the country's next prime minister. Minister Richards also spoke to, and as I said before, where their theme is keeping the promise. He did say that in the event the current political realities change, if things change, then PAM will do what is necessary, and they would seek to field other candidates in the constituencies that they currently have no candidates. We're taking your calls here on Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. The numbers are 466-0989 and 762-0989. The big topic is the convention of the People's Action Movement set for Sunday, March 13th. Now, what I can tie to this as well is most of you perhaps heard the statement right here on WINNFM this morning at 9:30 and 10 by the Honorable Lindsey Grant. Let me hold that thought and I'll head to the phone lines and take these calls. Caller, good morning. Good afternoon, sorry. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. Mr. Conyers, I don't know. Have you ever been involved in debates before, whether in school or elsewhere?
Yes, I have. I've been involved in debates for the past 6 years.
Right. So how do you know when your opponent have conceded an argument or have given up? I would suggest to you, well, generally speaking, in a formal debate, the rules won't allow it anyway. But I would suggest to you that when your opponent tries to distract by bringing up things that are irrelevant to the issue at hand, or worse, when he gets personal doing it, that is when you know that they've lost the argument. Okay? I mean, I'd be quite happy to defend my tenure of 34 years as a civil servant, but I retired since 2005, and the quality of my service is not the issue here and now. The issue here and now is that the Honorable Sean Richards and his colleagues in Team Unity, their performance, their behavior in office, and their failure to deliver on the promise of good governance is the issue. Okay, that is the issue. Right here and now, that matters to the people of the Federation. All citizens should ask, why hasn't this been done when it was promised? Okay, and that is why I refer to their theme, keeping the promise. But this is one big promise that has not been kept. And all citizens, even their diehard supporters, will come to the inevitable conclusion that they prefer to govern without the good governance system so that they can virtually do what they wish without consequences. That's the only conclusion anybody with any iota of sense can come to. Because, like I told him, these things don't take 7 months, and this is now 7 years, right? That is not how a modern progressive government in a democracy operates. And he can list out all these accomplishments, and interestingly enough, practically all of the what he calls accomplishments and projects, etc., can be questioned because of the way they were executed. All of them are plagued with either time or cost overruns. Some of them are shrouded in secrecy, corrupt practices. You hear them every day, right? And the point I was making to the Honorable Sean Richards is that this is so because the accountability systems in good governance have not been activated. Okay, and there's no end in sight to this because they don't seem committed to the activation anyway, right? And instead of dealing with the issue frontally, he chooses to distract and get personal. For someone who is aspiring to be the Prime Minister, I found that petty and childish. And no wonder the current Prime Minister is seeking a third term. Because in his opinion, I'm sure, and that of many other people, the Honorable Sean Richards is clearly nowhere near ready for the job as Prime Minister. Not with what we've been seeing of late, and not with replies like what he gave to what everybody would be wondering about what happened to the good governance agenda, right? Deal with the issue, man, and stop, trying to circumvent it, all right? And I mean, in the wrap-up, you notice it was only Natasha Gray who mentioned it at the end, trying a very lame response in that basically saying they're dealing with it. Well, we got to see evidence of that, okay? So, keeping the promise, we want them to keep their promise, yes, including and especially good governance, because that underpins everything else. That underpins how government operates. Okay? All right, then.
Right. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution to this program. We're still taking your calls here on Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. And I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Call us at 466-0989 and 762-0989. You can also send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. That is 662-2204. For those of you who are just tuning in earlier, we had members of the People's Action Movement, PAM, keeping the promise. That is their theme for their convention. And the caller there, of course, people have been questioning, what does keeping the promise mean? The minister, the political leader, that is, of the People's Action Movement, indicated that they intend to reaffirm their commitment. And so in 2015, the arrangement between the People's Action Movement, the Concerned Citizens Movement, and the People's Labour Party, they made an agreement in 2015, and the People's Action Movement intends to reaffirm their commitment to that agreement at their convention on Sunday. Of course, the minister and the other members of the People's Action Movement, they did say that part of keeping the promise is part of the promises that they made when they were first elected. And they have said that they will continue to work on those promises and they intend to deliver on those promises. But I want to hear from you, your take on keeping the promises. Of course, with the political leader making it clear that this is, mainly about their commitment to team unity. Your take on that? Of course, a number of, let me say, the PAM has received criticism from members of the general public, political pundits, saying that, well, being the party within the Team Unity Coalition having the most seats, parliamentary seats, that is, that they should be the ones leading in this coalition. And so this is the view and opinion of a number of people. However, PAM says that they are keeping the promise to which they made in 2015, and they are going to reaffirm that. As I said before, the leader said that if the situation changes where other parties within that coalition decide not to keep their promise, then PAM will do what is necessary, and that may be to field candidates and to do what they have to do if the agreement or the promise is not kept and upheld. It is 1 o'clock here in the studios of WINNFM 98.9, and I want to hear from you, the good listeners of WINNFM, your take on this. Call us at 466-0989 and 662-0989. We're also live on Facebook at WINNMedia SKN. You can also check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at WINNMedia SKN. We're taking your calls and your participation in today's program. We have just about 30 minutes left before we wrap up today's discussion. Also, making the news, or what I would say is breaking news, is the statement from the Honorable Lindsey Grant, Minister of Tourism, who he was involved in a verbal altercation with police officers. some 2 months ago. That was in January, I believe. Yes, early January at a popular bar, the last bar. And he issued this statement where he is calling on the authorities to either charge him or exonerate him, because it has been some time. And most of you would agree that this matter has been, I would say, in the air, where there hasn't been any clear direction on what the authorities would do in this case. We saw the back and forth between the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions, where one is saying that this is for the other. And so the minister, he was the person involved in this altercation. He has come out and he has made it clear that the authorities need to do their job. Is that you charge me or you let me go? And he has said that he is prepared, as well as his witnesses, his legal team, they are prepared if they have to go to the court with this matter. And so I think that is breaking news, making the rounds on the internet, across social media, where of course people are expressing their opinion on this and sharing their view on this. And as you know, this has been in the air for a very long time. Well, not a long time, but for the past 2 months, that is, and people have been talking about it. And that is natural because, of course, it involves a senior government official and law enforcement officers. And so, of course, it is going to attract a lot of attention. And it has been all over social media and still going around on social media. And many people have been talking about it. But this statement by the minister, I think, adds to it in a sense that people are going to continue to talk about it until something, or there is some action on this matter. As the minister said, whether they decide to charge or whether they decide to throw out this matter, it is going to be rather interesting. And of course, we're going to keep following this and you know, just to see what is going to come out of this situation, which is not only making the rounds here locally, but definitely across the region. And so, of course, many people are following this, and many people want to know what is going to happen. Now, the minister made it clear that he says that he's aware of the political climate in which we find ourselves today, and he says that there are certain elements within the government to which he is a senior member of, working to bring the charges. Now, we received we're getting some comments here on our WhatsApp number. So yes, continue sending your comments at 662-2204. We have a call on the line. Let's take some calls. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Cornelius.
Right, good afternoon.
It was good that Mr. Grant finally issued an apology of sorts, right? I guess public pressure forced him to do it, because before that he was very silent. As far as I know, it's still a live issue, but he chose to come out this time with a little more detail, okay? But what I really got the impression that he was saying, yes, I'm guilty of something, and he's apologizing for it. But at the same time, I did nothing wrong. You know, it's like he wants to have it both ways. And you know, in a sense, the statement seemed contradictory.
Mm-hmm.
Well, pretty much like in the misappropriation case, where the judge found that the the defendants were guilty of misappropriating clients' funds, but yet, and actually suggested a tribunal be constituted to determine punishment, but yet you find them saying that they did nothing wrong. You cannot have it both ways.
Well, not to cut you. With regards to the statement, he said, and as you're saying, he said, I wish to make it clear that I am confident that I committed no breach of the law, and I and my many witnesses stand ready to and willing to defend myself if and when any formal charges are leveled. He also said that I accept that the exchange with the police officers was unfortunate, and I also accept that I am to be held, and quite properly so, to a higher standard of behavior than others due to my position.
And he claimed he did use the word apologize, didn't he? He did. I'm sure I heard that.
No, I did not.
Okay, I must listen again. But I got the impression that he.
I could be wrong. I'll just back check though.
Yeah. Okay. So, but it really sounded like he was trying to have it both ways and contradicting himself, right? And I think it's interesting when he made this comment just in advance of when he was due to come on with you, and in advance of the convention as well. I guess he doesn't want to make this an issue for either the convention and he didn't want to, and he wanted to preempt any talk about it, and hence this statement. But there was a part of it which I didn't quite understand. Do you know if he's been summoned or he hasn't been charged apparently, right?
Well, I don't know. We don't know. That is the long and short answer of it.
Things we don't know as yet. But yet, he made reference to the police report indicating that, bringing in the Honorable Sean Richards' name into this, as if to say that it should not have been there. I don't know if you're not being charged or summoned for anything, how do you have access to the police report? Especially if you are, I can understand if you've been charged. You know, obviously your lawyer, etc., would need those things. But if you're not, how do you get access to it? Through inside information? How you know? And so I wondered about these things. And yes, I know he is a minister of government and therefore would be privy to certain information. But if he's basically being investigated, I would think that there are some things he would not know until the investigations are complete and he's been charged or summoned for something. That's looking at it from a layman point of view. I mean, a lawyer may say something different, or maybe the practice of the police in releasing information on their investigations to the people being investigated. This may be just their way of doing it. I don't know. But I just thought that it was curious that happened. You know, with regards to the conventions coming up, they're going to be interesting. It's interesting that this time the PLP's convention is after the PAM's convention.
Yeah, I think it's the following week.
Following week.
Yeah.
I think last year it was the opposite.
Yes, I believe so.
Because the lady from Trinidad came and did her damage, and that set the tone for both the conventions last year. So, it's quite interesting who the guest speaker is for the PAM's convention this year. And people will be listening to see if they're to see, keenly to see if there are any clues as to what is happening with unity, what is happening with the alliances between the parties, those kinds of things.
Well,
and also people will be looking to see what would be the PLP's response. You know, it's going to be quite interesting.
Right.
Mr. Grant threw a grenade this morning in his statement too, when he suggested that elements in the government itself is responsible for his predicament, and I don't know if those elements in the government are going to let that accusation pass just like that. You know, so it all makes for good theater.
The thing is, he did not name anyone. So, in him not naming anyone, perhaps there may be a response, but the response not coming from an official source, if you understand what I mean. Just like what we have been seeing on social media, you know, the back and forth, which is very clear, but nobody is coming out to say, well, my name is John Doe, and this is who I am. I am of this party or that party, and this is my stance, or this is my position on that. So I think the statement was a heavy statement, and it is more than just a statement. The mere fact that he said it.
Yeah, and what it indicates is somewhat of some dysfunction in government and some undermining going on. And you can bet your life, yes, you can take a cue from social media, because I still maintain, apart from Premier Brantley, I think nobody is telling these social media surrogates, and we pretty much know who they are. Some are fake and some are real, but nobody seems to be telling them, cool it, you know? So you must take from that that they have the blessing of their handlers, so to speak, right? So that would be good. That would be something to look out for, right? But you know, it's personally I feel that we're too entwined in these kinds of machinations and stuff like this. The kind of distract from what we really should be concerned about, bread and butter issues, development of the country, policies, new policies to take account of the fact that we're emerging from COVID and things have changed so much. You know, when I look, for instance, at the amount of time spent on optics and making oneself look good and being on social media, you wonder what time they have to really be looking after the affairs of the country. You know, I don't think it's good. And at some point, something got to give, right? And we have to get down to, they have to get down to the business of actually governing a country, as opposed to all this maneuvering that is going on. Yeah. All right, then.
All right, Caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. We'll take a short break to give a shout out to our sponsors. Please stick and stay. We'll be right back to continue the conversation right here on WINNFM 98.9. This is another edition of Inside the News. Keep your phones close. We will be right back. Let's take this break.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. It is Saturday, March 5th, 2022. A beautiful day here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's just 16 minutes past the hour here in the studios of WINNFM 98.9. And you're listening to Inside the News. We're heading back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You are on the air.
Yeah, greetings again. WINNFM was privy to carry that announcement by the Honorable Minister of Tourism. So can you please find a time, even if you can't fit it, just tell management, play it over, just re-hear it, This time.
All right. Thank you, caller, for your contribution to this program. We're still taking your calls at 466-0989, 762-0989. This is Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. For those of you who have joined, who have participated, thank you so much for your participation and contribution. We're heading back to the phone lines. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Devon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm fine, thanks.
Man, I'm here giving God thanks.
Awesome.
For the rain, every time I hear the water department and I hear rain, I say, Lord, thank you. I show all the farmers and the animals and everybody giving thanks. I want to send congratulations to first the Antioch Baptist Church. Today is the anniversary. And also to ZIZ radio station. Now, when we begin to question people's personal integrity, we must first check ours. Let me say it again. When we begin publicly to question people's integrity, we must first back check ours. You can't be vexed that somebody question yours and then try to say, well, I left since 2005. The records are still there. Now, most people are, well, not most people, but many people are disappointed. You listen to hear what you want to hear, and when you don't hear, it's pure criticism. Now, on Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, or Wednesday, on Freedom, lawyer Chesley Hamilton was invited. He didn't call him, he was invited to come and give his opinion on the matter with Mr. Grant. Now, they are not admitted that Mr. Hamilton is a lawyer of very high repute in St. Kitts. You know that, right?
Yes.
Just like how they said Henry Brown is one. So Henry Brown and Hamilton are two of the top
lawyers in St.
defense
Kitts.
lawyers in St. Kitts. He was asked questions by the host, and he gave responses. He said, based on the law, he said, I'm a lawyer and I know the law. And he pointed out that the first mistake made in the case is that Mr. Grant was not charged. You heard that, right?
Yes.
So it then becomes the fault of the police. Because if you're not charged, what you're going to try somebody for? And that we're skipping over that, The question is, can he be charged? Can you go back and charge him months after? I don't know the law.
I don't know if there's a stipulated time. I don't know if...
That is what I want to know.
Right, because...
Otherwise, we're just wasting time.
Right, because I agree with Lawyer Hamilton, because
If you're in charge, you
this
you
is
can
at
keep
the feet of the police.
Yeah, the
You
police.
didn't charge him in the first place. He wasn't arrested either.
You understand? He was neither charged nor arrested.
So you would agree that, of course, that is where everything.
The whole case hang.
Yeah.
So we arguing all around it and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, making hay out of it. I mean, many people were so disappointed. Some of them even started to curse the lawyer. The man said, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you will ask yourself, well, when this incident occurred, did it occur to the policeman that he should have charged him?
Mm-hmm.
And why wasn't he charged then?
Do you think he should have been arrested and charged?
Well, I don't know the whole story. He said he have his witnesses and so. Because it still boils down to that, eh?
Mm-hmm. But based on what you've heard,
Well, I tell you already, you know, up to yesterday I was listening on the internet on my phone, and he was talking about people being able to using the media to synchronize, get your voice to say what you didn't say.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been on either Fox or one of the stations. You know about that?
yes, well aware.
No, so nowadays you got to question a lot of things that you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say and he say and if he say and she say, and if the lady said it, why wasn't he charged for that too?
Mm-hmm. Well, you have the minister himself, Minister Grant, saying that he accepts that the exchange with the police was unfortunate. So he is confirming that there was an exchange between him and police officers.
Right,
He
there
takes
was some exchange.
right. Hold
He
on.
didn't exactly
Hold
what,
on.
eh?
He takes the position too that he did not commit any breach of the law, and
That is
that
it.
his witnesses stand ready and willing to defend him when any formal
Right.
charges are leveled.
So where do we go from there then? Hey.
Hello, caller.
Yeah,
Still there?
uh-huh. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm back with you.
Mhm.
So given all of those, where do you go from there? So can you have a child without a charge?
Hmm. That's the
See where
question.
we're heading?
Right.
So, because you see, we are very political. When somebody on our side do something, you know, oh, they could have given them a chance. And Mr. McMahon must remember, whenever you intend to criticize people's personal integrity, remember your own is up for inspection.
But in terms of your comment of being political, this is for both sides because.
But yes, it has to be.
Yeah, it's for both sides because if this was the other way around, then of course
That's what
we
I'm
know
telling you,
what to
you would have been the
expect.
same sort of noise.
Mm-hmm.
Or people, we don't want no facts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Devon fall up. Oh, somebody push him down. He deserve. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be rational.
I can say this much. My issue with all of this is that some people, not chastising anybody, not attacking anybody, but we really have to take time out to listen, to understand, instead of listening to respond, and try to filter certain things. I'm not taking
here
any
with the
side
lawyer
here. I'm
saying,
just
look,
being
what they should have done, right?
honest.
Bring another lawyer, since you don't accept what this one said.
Mm-hmm.
Bring another lawyer of good repute, because all them don't have it, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Bring one, you know, to give his opinion. Because until that matter is settled, if he had not been charged up to now, he has nothing to answer to. And it would do him well and others well to learn to control their temper. Learn to control your temper.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're right or you're wrong. You know? But just everybody looking for an occasion. And even with they're going to have the convention. people looking for an opportunity, or what Mark going to say. Well, Mark is part of Unity too. You understand?
I mean,
So all of that to wait till next Sunday to hear what will be said.
To be real, these questions are going to come. These questions, people are going to ask these questions based on what has been happening and based on what has been said by the political leader in terms of their theme, keeping the promise, and that they are aware of the political climate as it is right now. And if their partners in Team Unity do not keep their promise, then Pam will take the necessary action. So
that's irrational. What is wrong with that?
It's absolutely fine, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying that with comments like those, questions will come. People will begin to ask questions.
Well, those comments arise out of questions asked, you know.
I disagree. Those comments come from actions and things that are supposedly happening.
When our people don't concentrate on their own self, I said it already, you know, it's poverty have us so. Poverty have us so. Where we feel our future is tied up in other people.
All right then. Thank you so
you
much.
Take care of yourself, yeah?
Yeah, you take care as well.
All right, then God bless you. Everybody have a good day. And please don't let anybody confuse you. All right, then.
All right. Thank you, caller, so much for your contribution. We're still taking your calls here on WINNFM 98.9. We're winding down just 4 minutes before we wrap up today's edition of Inside the News here on WINNFM. Thank you so much for your participation. We have another call. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the here. Go right ahead.
Again, you see, people should be consistent, you know, right? Mrs. Henry is going to call in and say, if you are going to question someone's integrity, you must mind your own. Fine, okay? But the same thing applies to her. I just heard her say that some lawyers are not of good repute. That's questioning their integrity, so she should expect hers to be questioned as well. But the bottom line in the matter is that I am not on the ballot for anything. I am not running for anything. So why should my reputation or tenure in the public service be questioned now when there are people running now, okay, who should be held accountable? That's the whole point, right? I mentioned 2005 because that's been, what, almost nearly 15 years? Right? Ago. And you wait until now to question my public service? Just the mere fact that I speak out, and this is just an attempt to silence me, actually, right? Because if there was something to question, you bet your life, in that intervening 15 years, it would have been questioned. But this is just an attempt to cow people, and it does not work with somebody like me. I cannot be cowed, okay? And so I will continue to speak out, whether or not Mrs. Henry or whoever else. I think the Honorable Sean Richard said that I was always critical of the government. You have to critique the government. They are the ones who put in power to make sure our lives are better. If they're not living up to expectations, they have to be critiqued. And they should be glad to get the criticism, because when you get criticism, you can make adjustments, you can change. That is how you improve, you know? So, all right. Mrs. Henry, by all means, come after me, but it does not change the fact that we have a dysfunctional government in place that are too concerned with politics and machinations and kind of Machiavellian moves. I think Mr. Grant referred to them. They're too concerned with that and less concerned with empowering people, developing the country, making sure that the country stays competitive, right? Because all these things that are going on now are distractions. They're just distractions. And unless we start operating, unless the government start operating in an environment where there are good governance systems to hold them accountable, we're going to be going from bad to worse.
All right.
Okay? And happy birthday. I think tomorrow is Mrs. Henry's birthday. Happy birthday in advance.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. This is the end of Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9. It is 1:30 here in our studios. I have been your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Very good program that we had today, and thank you so much for your contribution and participation. Without you, this would not have been possible. I encourage you to continue to listen to WINNFM 98.9. Our regular programming continues. And just to give you a lineup of what is happening, of course, join us next week for Voices and next week for Inside the News. But just to give you a bit of a run-through of what's happening, join us for the Backyard Show with Ruckus H.E. and DJ Jed at 3 p.m. And, of course, our newscast at 6. This has been another exciting edition of Inside the News here on WINNFM 98.9, and I have been your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Until next time, stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, don't cough in nobody's face, don't pick the fight with the body, and please, you behave by yourself. Have a good Saturday, and take good care.
Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Basse-Terre or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean.